our speaker for today. Many of you may know him already, but indulge me for a moment while I introduce him. He is Akhilesh Tuteja. He is partner Global Cybersecurity and TMT industry leader with KPMG India. So Akhilesh heads the telecom, media and technology industry for KPMG. And he's also the global leader for cybersecurity consulting practice for the firm. And he serves on the executive council of NASSCOM. He's very passionate about developments in the area of digital technologies and how this can help businesses thrive and drive smart processes and effective outcomes. He's been associated with a number of national and international industry forums, including the World Economic Forum, as a speaker and advisor. On the professional front, he has advised over 200 clients on matters relating to digital and data strategy, selection of business technology systems, and he has led engagements involving large-scale digital transformation programs. He has received Consulting Magazine's Global Consultant of the Year for 2019, and today he'll be talking about the future of security. So please welcome on stage Akhilesh Tuteja from KPMG.
Good evening. Oh, thank God, because I wasn't sure whether I was dealing with machines, so therefore I said, hello, humans. All right, you heard that rather lengthy introduction. I'm not going to spend too much time, but I want to just start with one simple quiz to all of you. There are two kinds of things which we hear. The future is bright, and then we hear the good old days. When you say good old days, means the future isn't bright, and when you say future is bright, we'll look forward to. So, show of hands, how many of you believe future is bright? Wonderful. Okay, that's a good news. How many of you believe good old days? Okay, that's good too. Okay, let me just start first with a sense of gratitude. And a sense of gratitude to be here and to represent a number of you, because the ideas we're going to talk about today are not mine. And the reason I also have a sense of gratitude is because I met some of you who I've known for many years. And to start with Mr. Upal, he's been my guide and mentor for many years. So a sense of gratitude, and that's why I start with a disclaimer. And my disclaimer is that I don't pretend to know more than all of you, okay? So I just lucky enough to be here on stage, and you are listening right now, and it'll be the other way around in a few hours. So I don't pretend to know more than what you guys do, so sense of gratitude. The second thing I want to say is that a lot of things you're going to hear today are my personal views, so not KPMG views, and not necessarily the things which you can't hold me after a few years saying, hey, you said, and it didn't turn out to be. You could hold Professor Walsh for that, because I think he kind of is more authority on the topic. The third one, I want to say that if you find everything very entertaining, that means you're missing the point. And last one, and from where I take the speed, is if you try to take notes, you might actually miss some things. Clicking picture might just help. All right. So this is a one-question poll which I have. So if you can scan through your phones, just one question poll I want you to ask you to do is, if you can't scan it from the distance, just go to www.menti.com. and it'll ask you for a code. The code is 77919912. All right, so let's do a one-question poll so that I know what am I dealing with here. Okay, so I've got about 10 people here. Let me just get to the poll. And the poll question is, what superpower would you like to get? And the three choices are, you want to become invisible at will. Second is, you want the ability to read others' minds. And the third one is that you want the ability to teleport anywhere. I'll just hide the results so that it doesn't bias those who haven't yet voted, so that it doesn't create any challenge. All right, so you got about 40 responses. Thank you so much. Let me just see the temperature in the room. How does it look like? Okay, all right. So 63% people want to have the ability to read others' minds. Good. You guys are quite creepy at level. 24% of you want to be teleported. So if you want to leave the room, please leave the room. I really don't want you to sit here and struggle like a prisoner. And 12% want to become invisible at will. I'll tell you the good news. The good news is that the third one, which is so they become invisible, is going to be the hardest thing to achieve for us as people wish to talk about technology. The second and third will actually be much easier. If you can see in many ways, if you were to look at materialized form, the teleportation is kind of getting here, okay, with HoloLens and many other things. The ability to read mind is also going to be here in possibly next 7 or 8 years, and I'll talk about that if time permits. That's not the topic of my talk today. But Those of you, 11% of you who want to become invisible at will, you have the bad news, because you are not going to be able to achieve your dream, at least in your lifetime. All right? So that's a good news that we will be able to fulfill the wishes of about 89% of this room in next 7 to 10 years. All right? Okay, so let me first start about, and all of us, I belong to the IT industry, and I said that there isn't any better industry than IT industry when it comes to fashions. Okay? Because what do fashion people do? They say, A is great today and B is great tomorrow, and by the way, A was great too, and let's bring A back. So you've seen all those bell-bottoms, smart ones, sleek ones, bell-bottom again, and all of that. So I'll tell you why I'm saying that, why IT industry is a bigger fashion industry than anything else. So the first one, let's talk about how we do the computing. So it was mainframe when I started many years ago, centralized computing. They said, that's a bad idea, let's do client-server, that's distributed. And said, bad idea, let's go to the web. Again, centralized, and now we are talking about edge. Again, decentralized. I don't know who's doing all of these things, but something looks wrong here, right? Can't you decide whether it's centralized or decentralized? Make up your mind, guys. The second one I'll tell you is that for many years, I went to the boardroom and says, why cloud? Trust me, I go to all boardrooms and says, why not cloud? Something is going wrong here. I think someone will come again saying that why cloud? The third one is all of us have seen that we build systems, ERP system says, I have built this system now get me the reports. By the way, many times consultants didn't even deliver reports on time when the project got over. And nowadays they say, we want data. I want dashboard. Now figure out what system you need to implement because my outcome is dashboard and data, right? Are you guys following me so far? These trends are going somewhere else. The next one I want to talk about, the next trend is people said that, if you're a technology company, you want to be differentiated by tech. I'm the best tech guy. And said, we need to verticalize. I know business better. I'm the business guy. Technology is by the way. And now we're talking about everything is about, if you look at the largest amount of money today is going in deep tech, saying business doesn't matter. If you've got the best deep tech, it'll solve every business problem. The next one and the last one here is the hardware versus software. When I was growing up in technology industry, it was all about hardware, firmware. People differentiated basis that and then said, software is the game. Don't put your money in hardware. Sorry, AMD, if you guys are sitting somewhere in the room. Sanjeev, sorry about that. Came software and then says, no, not software is bad. Let's put appliances, hardware and software together. That's a bad idea. Let's put everything as a code. Hardware doesn't matter. And now we are talking about quantum, and quantum comes up. Where does the software guys go? So I just think that there's a lot of stuff going on here. By the way, this is all my proprietary stuff, so you feel free to use it as you like it. I've not copied any stuff. But I do think that there isn't a better fashion industry than IT industry. So if that is the case, how easy is it for us to predict the future? It's very easy. We just copy-paste these blocks somewhere else, and that's how the future will look like. Because the future, I heard Professor Toby also said, the history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes itself. I really don't care. Maybe whatever it does, it looks like the same. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, this is my session. I've got 13 minutes, 45 seconds left, so I'm going to be even faster now. So just pay attention. I was asked to do a session on future of cybersecurity. And the first question I asked Gary, I said, which horizon? He said, you choose. And when you give the consultant a choice, consultants can't make choice. So he said, okay, how do I decide? I thought always client decide. I just come and give the random gyan and client chooses. This time I have to choose. Say, okay, can't choose, I gave all. So I want to tell you today the 6 different horizons of future of cybersecurity. I will tell you, and this is going to be very, very interesting. I'll tell you what is the future of cybersecurity tomorrow morning. Reasonably, right? I will also tell you the future of security next year. I will also tell you the future of security a few years from now, several years from now, many years from now, and also too far. I'm going to tell you the future of cybersecurity 50 years from now. And those of you who don't believe, I've actually written a book. It's called Cyber Next. And we have put in this is KPMG's publication, we have put in cybersecurity in 2072, because I wrote that last year. So I took the brave act of saying, I will tell you cybersecurity 2050, all right? Now, the one quote which I'll tell you before I go further, why I wrote that 50-year report is, I'm more likely to be right about 50 years prediction than I'm going to be about the 3-year prediction. So therefore, I chose saying, putting my mouth in 3 years is going to be very dangerous. So let's put 50, because who cares? Who will actually be able to pull back my report saying, what did Akhilesh say 50 years ago? If you have that interest, then I'm live. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. Okay. So let's now start. I've got 12 minutes to go, and I've got 6. So I'm going to take 2 minutes per scenario of how the world will look like. So tomorrow morning, what will be the future of cybersecurity tomorrow morning? And the answer is very simple. In fact, Gary presented the data, and he talked about phishing, ransomware. These are the #1 things. I can tell you, ransomware for all. As they said, digital for all, when Samsung came with the thing, I think it's now hackers saying ransomware for all. You're a big company, we have ransomware for you. We've got a small company, we've got a ransomware. We've got ransomware for all sizes, shapes, and structures. So there is, if you haven't been hit by ransomware today, I think you're lucky. All right, so I'm telling you that ransomware are here and they are here. This is the chart, by the way. I think, sometimes consultants make mistakes. I thought this got a chart on world's largest economies by GDP. World's largest economy by GDP, US 25 trillion, 26 trillion, China 20, I don't know what is it. But basically, this chart actually tells me that the third largest economy by size is cybercrime. So if you looked at the cybercrime as an industry, it is the third largest economy by size. It is closer to about $7.98 billion. So if this economy of cybercrime is so big, so large, so lucrative, people will come after this. So that's why I'm saying, if you see the data, these are all the data. Now, good news is that when a ransomware attack happens, most times you get lucky. It's like an accident on Delhi roads. So you just shout at each other, but nothing really happens to the car because the cars don't ride very fast. So about 93% of the ransomwares don't lead to loss of money or giving the ransom. Only about 7%. So if you have had a ransomware attack, it's still okay. You may not have had the challenge, but 7% of the people end up paying a lot of money, which goes as high as $1 million, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars. So all of that costs. So the ransomware chart, as you can see, not a lot of details, but right now, tomorrow morning, your worry should be ransomware. Why ransomware? You heard about all of these things. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Have you guys heard of CAAS? It's called crimeware as a service, right? So by the way, the crimeware as a service says that, we allow you to rent. So we have built a very nice hacking tool. We don't have time to just give, like for example, just talk about some of the good guys. So the good guys, Salesforce created a platform saying, we are the best platform when it comes to Salesforce and doing Salesforce management. We've built the platform, you use it. Microsoft will say, we've built the platform, you use it. So these guys say, as a hacker have created this platform, you use it, just pay me the money. So there's a crimeware as a service. And by the way, this is, it's easier to hire a hacker than you can imagine in today's time. It costs very, very little money. Not talking about easier to hire a KPMG, that's quite hard actually, but it's easier to hire a hacker than it is. I didn't think that the hackers are learning from the auto rickshaw industry. Okay? And again, taking Mr. Upal, my friend, he makes cars, all right? So he makes best cars, Suzuki cars in the world, and but they are not the one who actually take you from one place to another. So they sell cars to somebody, then who buys that cars, and they say, okay, I will run it in Ola and pick some people from here. Exactly the same supply chain works in the crime industry. So the guys who actually built crimeware don't launch it most of the time. And those who launch it most of the time don't collect the money. So it's a supply chain where somebody will build. So the guy who's actually launching the attack need not be technically expert. So the guy who's driving you on Ola doesn't know how to build a car, but he can drive you around. So the same thing happening, there's a big supply chain, and therefore this is going to happen. So my 2 minutes are over for what's going to happen tomorrow, pretty simple. What's going to happen next year? That's going to be very interesting, and you can hold me for that. I think the next year is going to be what I call the AI contaminations, all right? How many of you have heard of this term called CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability? So I think your CISOs are doing a little bit job telling you. So CIA stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and that is actually changing. When I grew up, all the attacks were called confidentiality attack, which basically means that you got data, I'll steal your data. Then hackers realizing it's very stupid for me to go and steal somebody's data which I can use, because you come and steal my data and say, I don't care, do whatever you want to do it, because my data is useless to you. They said, I'm not going to steal your data and sell it because nobody buys it. I'm going to steal your data and sell it to you, which means that I don't take a copy of it, I block it. And those were the attacks we called the availability attack. So ransomware, which you're dealing with it today, that's today's problem. This was yesterday's problem. Somebody stole my data and sold it. Somebody stole my money, made advantage. These guys said, that's 2% of the market. This is 100% of the market. So market size expands by 50 times. And here I'm saying, I will launch an attack. I will take your data and sell it to you, not to somebody else because it's useless to those guys. Okay? Those are all the attacks. What's going to happen in the future is not confidentiality attack, is not the availability attack. They're going to be integrity attack. They will say, you use this best algorithm to decide where should you sell your next product. That's your AI model. We will come and inject this AI model. And now the data which you'll get will be completely useless. So I'm not stealing your data and selling it. I'm not stealing your data and locking it. I'm actually contaminating your data. And that is the kind of the attack which we can all see is these are the 4 kinds of attacks. And again, we specialize in doing some of these things. There's a poisoning attack, which I talked about, that you can poison the AI model to give wrong results. You can actually do the evasion attack, which means that you can get the model to avoid what it's supposed to do. That's called an evasion attack, an inference attack, and a functional extraction attack. Mitre Atlas framework does it all. Again, so that's one area which I think you should start to worry about starting next year. No problem today. Use ChatGPT, whatever it is. But I think come next year, you should start to worry about AI contaminations more than you will start to worry about confidentiality and availability. We are going so far, so good. Can I have a round of applause, please? Thank you so much. I just wanted to see that, I'm going good. I've got 6 minutes to go, so I'll go further. Few years. Okay, so now we have moved from 24 to about 32 or 31. What's going to happen? 2 potential things. I'm going to take a fork here. It could be either an era of what I call the insecure devices everywhere, or it could also be an era of deepfake. Today, again, Professor Walsh talked about Pope in that jacket and all that. Those are kiddish attacks. They're going to be serious attacks. So today, how do you withdraw your money? You go to the ATM. In old times, you put in the PIN. In today's time, you can do it from your app. Tomorrow's time, there'll be password authentication. But then at that point in time, if somebody could impersonate you, so I go in as Inder. I'm not Inder. How do you prove that somebody who pretends to be Inder, passwords not relevant, biometrics not relevant, so the deep fakes will have a big thing. But I'm not going to talk about deep fakes because I think it's still a very nascent kind of story and it will cause different kind of damage. It will cause damage to people who matter. At least not people like me. There will be people who are really celebrities and all of that. So we'll dig about that. Because right now the cost is very high to create deep fakes and all of that. But I think I worry about, especially for the CIO community, is the insecure devices. Let me ask you this question, by the way. This wall on which I'm projecting, okay, this is an LED wall, right? Okay, a bit dumb wall, but that TV screen, which I think is a smart wall, okay? How long do you think is the life of that TV, typically? 7 years, 8 years? How long is the life of a projection system which is smart behind it? How long is the life of a smart curtain? How long is the life of a smart car? About 10 years. So the average life of these smart devices is anywhere between 7 and 15 years. Why does an Android or an Apple or a Lenovo or an AMD forces us to say change your device in 4 or 5 years? Can you actually use any of your phone? Of course, you can use your phone for 10 years also, right? But beyond that, you really can't do the serious stuff. To do the serious stuff on a laptop or a phone, average life, 5 years? I think there's a 5-year is not a wear and tear life. 5-year is a supportable life, which means that as a security obligation, as long as I can support this device for 5 years and give all the hot fixes and patches, etc., I'm good as an OEM. But if, imagine you were to support your laptop for 15 years, or your mobile phone for 15 years, no OEM can support it today. Now, the unfortunate thing that all the technology which was designed to stay 4 or 5 years secure is now being put into devices that are going to last for 15 years and are going to be there everywhere and hidden. This is going to be a big stuff. Including if you're a small shop and you put a display saying Pizza Hut, even that display today has a Wi-Fi sensor, an Android-based operating system. So it's a chaos which we will deal with. So the devices, a lot of people are talking about IoT. I'm not even going to the devices which are doing production. No, 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 they're very expensive devices. We'll deal with them. They're expensive. We know them. I'm talking about those dirty, cheap devices which are proliferating everywhere, but they have the ability to connect to my network. I may say they're firewalled, air-gapped. No, don't trust any of that. It is going to be a big problem, all right? So we're going to be surrounded by insecure devices in a few years' time, several years, okay? And several years from now, I used to come home late, and my wife used to say that, you don't seem to be working in a life-saving business, so why do you come late? And why do you have to pick up that call at 11:30 p.m.? Nobody's going to die. I think I'm going to have a great excuse few years from now because the industry which I am in, and some of you actually will cause not loss of money in the bank, not loss of reputation because of deepfake, but actually will cause loss of life because we'll either be in a connected car, not on an autonomous car. I'm not going there because a lot of people say, India mein autonomous car kaise chalayega? Chalayega, definitely chalayega, but even a connected car will have that challenge. The pacemaker connected will have. So all of these devices and connectivity which we have, imagine we could cause, even if I don't have to get somebody to die, if I can artificially induce the air pressure, if I can artificially increase the pulse rate, the kind of panic attack it can create on humans. So humans is going to be a big, big, big challenge, all right? Smart toilets, by the way, okay? Be careful if you go to the... I don't have time to cover this one, but there's a very, very interesting trend which you're going to see. Okay, of course, I'll skip all of this. Many years from now, we will see a big phenomena is quantum. By the way, many years is not, I'm not talking about 50 years. I've not yet got there. I'm still talking about 12, 15 years here. Quantum. Quantum will bring two disruptions. One, it will make things so different than what we are used to, but that's not what I'm worried about as a security expert. What I'm worried about quantum is it creates what's called, it makes today's encryption rather irrelevant, right? For example, so somebody, if you're using today 1024-bit or 2050 48-bit, one may say that those computers don't exist today commercially, so how do I care? I don't need to care because by the time the quantum computer comes, I will not be using 1024-bit. I'll be using maybe 20,000 bits, and even quantum computer will not be able to do it. Bad problem for all of us is that the attackers today, what they're doing is this technique which is called store now, decrypt later. So imagine you are a hospital. I was sitting with somebody from Sayadri Hospital. Imagine you have the data. What is your obligation today to store patient record? 10 years. So imagine if I could store all your data, which is encrypted. So I get into your system, encrypted, 100% encrypted, I can't get it. I'll download the data, and I'll sit on the data for 10 years. And at 10 years, I've now got technology which can actually decrypt the data which was encrypted 10 years ago using 1024. And at that point in time, I'll hold you to ransom. So in quantum computing, we don't have to worry about today's encryption and today's quantum capability. We have to worry about today's encryption and tomorrow's technology if the data which I'm storing has had that long life cycle. So it's called harvest now, decrypt later, or store now, decrypt later. This is going to be a big challenge. I think that's something which you need to worry now, not a few years from now. All right? Let's talk about, in my view, future of cybersecurity. At that point in time, will become what I call the cybersecurity will become invisible. You won't pay me to come here. By the way, I haven't been paid to come here, just to kind of give you all the records clear. But you won't even have attention to listen to me here because my time is up. I'll go 2.5 minutes more if you guys are okay. If you're not okay, you can raise your hand. Okay, I'll listen to you. So in that time, by that time, cybersecurity will become invisible. What do I mean invisible? Look at this elevator. How many times you got into an elevator and you used to say, "Ek aur ghus jata hu." Does it break? No, right? You don't go to elevator and say, so we don't worry about squeezing one more person in an elevator because you know that there's something, by the way, just to tell you, the factor of safety on an elevator is 10x by law around the world, which means that if it can carry a weight of 700 kilos, the rope is designed to carry 7,000 kilos. Not 800, not 900, not 10,000. It's 10x is the minimum baseline around the world. All the sensors, all this thing actually. So the elevator has become what I call the invisible security. You don't worry about, you don't call people saying, can you do pen testing of this elevator before I install it in my shop? Don't do it. So I think in my view, by this time, cybersecurity will become invisible. Not that I'll become irrelevant. I'll still be relevant. By the way, for those of you, I do cybersecurity only 50% of my time, 50% of the time, I actually make things work. And that's why I'm telling you that I understand cybersecurity as a business enabler and not something which stops business from. So that'll happen. But let's talk about too far, which is what the book I was saying I've written 50 years from now. What's going to happen from 50 years from now? Few predictions. I've written 25 predictions. I'm going to give you about 4 or 5 here today. Okay? The first one which I have is machines will become smarter than us. Of course, no prizes for guessing. Okay? I'm not saying that they will destroy us and kill us. They will definitely become smarter than us. And I have a theorem and I have a hypothesis that I can prove it to you for sure. I think clearly also machines could predict the future. Machines will, so you don't need Akhilesh to come here and tell you the future. You will ask the machine what the future would be. In my view, machine could also read and change your mind. By the way, machine can read your mind in less than 10 years from now. And I can talk about that also if time permits, but not about reading your mind, changing your mind. Machines will be able to change your mind. There will be drones which will be insect-sized. So in this room, I can tell you there are a few 100 billion insects which are there in this room, which we don't see. We can't see. The human eye can't see. Imagine we could have the drone of that size. It's going to be possible. Okay? What are we talking about? I think the toughest part is we won't be able to differentiate between truth and fiction. You won't be able to say that this is, so the court of laws will have a big issue of saying, because today we believe on witnesses. There is no way you will be able to prove witnesses. Even though there will be cameras everywhere, everything will be recorded, it will be hard to become differentiated between truth and fiction. and people might become lost in virtual world. So these are some of these things. So what? You guys are here. You guys are not here to listen to what's going to happen in 50 years. You're here to, what do I do tomorrow morning? What do I do 3 years from now? So now I bring back to the question, Giri said, कि कुछ भी बकवास कर दो, but एक ज्ञान दे के जाना कि यार boardroom में जाके क्या बोलना है. So I'm going to tell you boardroom में जाके क्या बोलना है, okay? So this is my, all these 6 horizons. So the first one is tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, ransomware for all, what do you do? Very, very simple. Do not even attempt to prevent all attacks. Because you will be putting more money than needed to prevent all attacks. There are a lot of CIOs and CISOs who are on this, what I call the false impression that they can prevent all attacks from happening. Guys, don't even try it. Try and prevent as much as you can, reasonably. Don't overdo it, but be prepared to deal with when things go wrong. Things will go wrong. If the things haven't gone wrong to you, you're lucky. Hope that they do go wrong in a small way so that you're prepared to deal with it when they go wrong in a big way. One thing which I will suggest, if you haven't done it, not you guys, not your CISOs, not your technical team, get your senior management, not talking about board, get your senior management, your CEO minus 1 group, put them in a room and get them to go through a cyber crisis simulation. That'll be the biggest ROI you can produce for them to make sure, let them go through what a cyber attack looks like, because if they don't go through it, and when that attack happens, they will make you go through in a way which you don't want to go through. So that's my simple, I could tell you this is my $10,000 advice to you for free, that do that exercise because it's needed and it'll help you do that tomorrow morning. For AI contaminations, what do? I think most of us have grown up in the era where we learned SDLC lifecycle, waterfall life cycles. We followed a very simple principle: make the software robust, do the testing thoroughly, put it in the Fort Knox, put change control around it. So if you've tested something, it does work well, and you control that it can't be changed, it'll work. All of those principles are outside the window. Please take a course. I've actually done 2 courses on machine learning, and they have been enlightening to me, and I can recommend some of them to you, but learn how the models are built. Many of us who use ChatGPT don't even know what GPT is, don't even know how GPT is built, don't even know how GPT can be contaminated. Do that, because that's going to pay you not today, but next year. The third one I will tell you is on the insecure devices, put disproportionate amount of time and money in securing your OT than you do securing your IT. Because the good news is that IT, in the 1980s, the IBMs of this world created what's called the PC architecture. There's an OSI layer of 7 layers. None of that is so sacrosanct in the OT world. So if you spend X amount of attention to securing IT asset, you need 3X, because there are issues around power management, there are issues around patch management, there are issues around accessibility of the device. I can talk hours and hours and hours, but do not undermine the importance of OT security. From several years, when the life is going to be that it could cause a loss of life, I've actually given a great advice to you. Do a thorough risk assessment if you want to be the CIO for that industry. Rather than solving with somebody, it might be harder to solve that problem than to find another job, all right? So I don't have an answer for you. How do you save lives? The next one is that many years when quantum disruption comes, I think you need to start thinking about it today. Thinking about it. Don't do anything, but think about it as to what data today you have which will be used. If you have a lot of sensitive data which have life cycle value of more than 10 years, I think you need to do what's called the quantum impact assessment and think about what's called quantum PQC, which is the post-quantum cryptography. And the last one, in this one, all of this, one thing which gets hugely underestimated is what I call the supply chain security. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but that's something which I think you should worry about. And the last one, which is my too far. What happens too far? Reimagining future. And for all of you who are interested in that advice, healthcare is getting better. Okay? Clients like Sayadri, Vedanta, these guys are doing a great job. The cost of living is growing up even more. And therefore, if you want to live that long and in that life cycle, here I see Deepak sitting from Kotak Mahindra Bank. Consult him for a great financial advice of how do you secure your future financially, if not technologically. All right, so I said that I'm likely to be more right about predicting 50 years from now than 3 years. And why I said that? Because who cares? I won't be here for 50 years. So I will die by the time that 50-year prediction comes true, and you won't be held accountable. And once again, a huge, huge, huge gratitude for those of you who have contributed to my personal growth and learning. But I also feel sad. And I'm going to end on this rather somber note. I feel sad because I think the jobs which the CISOs and many of you who actually sponsor CISOs or work in it, I think they're the uncelebrated, unsung heroes. They only get remembered when things go wrong. They don't get remembered for everything which goes right, which didn't go wrong, because there is no method in today's world to identify the value of solved problem. We only see the value of unsolved problem. There is no way to put a price tag to what risk got mitigated. We can only put a price tag to the risk which did not get mitigated. So on that note, I have a huge sense of gratitude and a little bit of feeling sad. So go and sing, celebrate those heroes. And with that, thank you very much for giving me this wonderful medal. Thank you.